Okay guys, we're back. So week 4, we're starting a new unit. It may not feel super different because we're going to continue with our algebra, but this time it's going to be solving equations. So today we are going to be talking about substitution. Really good to see some of your notes and see that people are taking some of the things down from the videos into their notes to kind of help them with the work, so that's really great to see. Okay, so I'll give you a little definition and then we'll do some examples. So substitution, if you can kind of think about when there's substitution, like a substitute teacher, another teacher comes in and replaces the teacher that is normally there. So substitution, what we're going to do is we replace a letter, okay, so a variable with a number in brackets. So you put the number in brackets and then solve the equation. Okay, so just a bit of a definition and now we'll do some examples. So let's say, for example, we have a situation where x is equal to -2 and y is equal to 4. Okay, so this would be a typical question. You'll be given what x is numerically and y if they're both in the equation, and then you'll be given a question something like this, 3x plus 1. Okay, so we are only going to be substituting -2 in for x because there's no y in this question. So what it would look like is I do 3, instead of the x, I put brackets, okay? So I don't put anything in the brackets until I set up the brackets. And the reason for that is, so -2 goes in there. Sometimes if people don't put the brackets, they may end up writing 3 minus 2, okay? And then they would be doing a minus here, like 3 take away 2, instead of 3 times -2. Okay, so that's why we always set up the brackets. Okay. Sorry, I forgot my eraser today. Okay, and then we can't forget about the +1. Okay, so the second line should really just look like the question, except that instead of the variable, you've put the number in. Okay, everything else stays the same. Now we have to follow the rules of BEDMAS, or BEDMAS, however you like to say it. Okay, and brackets, in this case we don't have, exponents we don't have, division we don't have, but we have multiplication right here. Okay, so we're going to do that before we add. So 3 times -2, that's -6 plus 1. So my answer is going to be -5. Okay, so this is the kind of questions that you do come up with just one answer at the end. It's going to be a number. Okay, let's do another example. This example is y minus x. Okay, so we need to substitute in for the y, and as well we need to substitute in for the x. So my next line, I'm going to put brackets for the y minus brackets for the x. Okay, into the brackets for the y it goes just 4, and for the x it's -2. Okay, see here, kind of going back to like the beginning of the course when we were talking about these double signs. Okay, double signs is when you have 2 signs side by side, but there's no number or anything in between. So we know that 2 negative signs side by side are going to be replaced by 1 plus. Okay, so my next line is just going to be 4 plus 2. Okay, be careful that you don't replace the double sign here with another double sign. Okay, so 4 plus 2 is 6. So my answer to this one is 6. Okay, one more example. Okay, and be sure, now that we've done a couple, be sure that you are pausing, trying the example, and then checking. Okay, it's the best way to get the most out of these lessons. So C is just x, y. Okay, so we know because there's no operation in between, there's no plus sign, there's no minus sign, we know that it's x times y here. So I'm going to set up my brackets, brackets for the x, brackets for the y, and for x it's -2, y it's 4. Okay, so this is just telling me that I need to multiply. So -2 times 4, that's -8. Okay, so that's the answer. So I'm going to do a couple more examples. It does get a little bit more complicated, and that's where following your rules of Bedmas really come into play. I'll just use this one. Okay, get rid of our definition. Okay, I'm going to write a little hint at the top. So if your question looks like a fraction, if your question looks like a fraction, solve the top, solve the bottom, kind of individually, okay, and then divide last, okay, and I'm just going to do an example that kind of illustrates what I'm talking about there. So let's see here. So for first question here, x is equal to -4, okay, y is equal to 8, and z is equal to -2. Okay, so the question we're going to do is 2x plus 3y divided by 4z plus 3y. Okay, so we're going to use this hint, okay? So we're going to solve the top, okay, so that being this. We're going to solve the bottom, okay? And then we're going to divide the numbers last, okay? But before we get to that, we know we need to substitute in our numbers for the variables, okay? So being really careful to set up our bracket, so 2 brackets for the x, and then -4 goes in there. Okay, that's where I am, so that's that, plus 3 brackets for the y. And 8 goes in there. Okay, so there's my top. Bottom is 4 times z, so brackets for the z. Then I look and see what it is, that's -2, so that goes in there. Okay, so I've got 4z plus 3 brackets for the y, and then 8 goes in there. Okay, so I've substituted in the numbers for all of these variables. Okay, now I am going to apply my hint where I'm going to solve the top and solve the bottom, but then I'm going to divide these last, okay? So the top, I've got multiplication, multiplication, and addition, okay? So I can solve this, solve that, and then add them after. So I'm going to do this on my first line. So 2 times -4, that's -8, plus 3 times 8, that's 24. 40 plus 9, 24. Okay, so that's what I have on the top after I do the 2 multiplications. On the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the 2 multiplications. They're going to be the exact same. So 4 times -2, that's -8, and 3 times 8, that's 24. Okay. So now I can just look at the top and say, okay, what's -8 plus 24? Well, that's the same as 24 minus 8, so that should be 16. Okay, and the bottom is going to be the exact same too. So I've solved my top all the way down to just getting one number. I've solved the bottom all the way down to just getting one number. Now I'm going to divide, okay? So 16 divided by 16, that's 1, so my answer is just 1. So this is important to remember this hint, because normally you might be tempted to multiply, multiply, and divide before you add. Okay, but it's kind of like there's brackets around this whole thing. So you have to solve the top and solve the bottom all the way down to just getting one number before you divide. Okay? I'm going to do I'll do a couple examples actually from the worksheet that I'm going to send out. Okay, so I'll leave my hint at the top. I'm just going to erase this. So I'll do a couple examples from the worksheet just so you can check and see that you're started off on the right track. Okay, so A is equal to -3, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to -4. And so that's for question 1. And A part for question 1 is 3A plus B. Okay, so this is right from your worksheet. So before I do anything, I'm going to do 3, set up brackets for my A, plus B, set up brackets for B. Now I'm going to put the values in. So A is -3, so -3 goes right there. And B is 2, so 2 goes there. Okay, so I know I have a couple things going on. First it's multiplication, and then it's addition. So I'll do my multiplication first. So 3 times -3 is -9 plus 2. So my answer will be -7. Okay, I'll do one more example from your sheet. Of course, you'll pause it, try it, and then check your answer just to make sure that you are getting them right on your own. So this is A plus B minus 3C. Okay, this is just B from question number 1. So I set up my brackets. A plus B minus 3C. So A is -3, B is 2, and C is -4. Okay, so I've got addition, and then I'm going to subtract this. But I need to first do this multiplication before I can do my addition and subtraction. Okay, those are kind of tied, but first is the multiplication. So I'm just going to write -3 down, and I'm going to write 2 down, but I'm going to solve this. So this is going to be minus, or I can look at it like this. What's -3 times -4? That's going to be positive 12. Okay, so plus 12. The other way people might see that, because this is where I do see some little mistakes, is you might write this, okay, minus 3 times -4. Well, 3 times -4 is -12. Now I have my double sign, my double negative, which is going to be replaced with a plus sign. Okay, so this goes back to our integer rules. So that's where I get plus 12. So now my question is just -3 plus 2. That's -1 plus 12. Your answer should be 11. Okay, that's it for the first day. Good luck. I'll send out a worksheet with that, and let me know if you have any trouble.